Hi, and welcome to a video demonstration of the ALEN Computer-Aided Dispatch, or CAD system. In today's video, we will spend a few minutes showing the interactions between a dispatcher and a patrol officer on a routine call for service. For a more in-depth demonstration of the ALEN CAD system, please look for other videos in our video demonstration series or reach out to us to schedule a personal live demonstration for your agency. At the very end of this demo, we will post the many ways you can reach our sales team. Before we get started, there's a few things we want you to know about the ALEN CAD solution. First, the ALEN CAD system is used by dispatchers and patrol officers, with user interfaces designed specifically for each type of user. Secondly, the CAD is fully integrated with other ALEN solutions, providing efficiencies and reducing data entry. Information from one solution can flow to the other. Third, ALEN can and is being used by agencies that don't have mobile data terminals. There's many benefits to the system, whether or not you've got MDTs in the car. Next, ALEN CAD solution supports dispatching to multiple agencies at one time, whether this is police and fire within your town or multiple agencies within your county. The ALEN system also includes location services, which allows the users to see and track patrol officers when their vehicles are set up with location devices or they do have onboard MDTs. With all that said, let's get started on today's demo. For the purposes of our demo today, we'll be logged in to two different sessions. One session will be logged in as CAD dispatcher, and the other session will be logged in as Officer 2. By doing this, we'll be able to demonstrate the interactions that occur between the dispatcher and the officer. In our demonstration today, CAD dispatcher will function as our dispatcher, and Officer 2 will be the officer who responds to the call. As we go through our pretend scenario, we'll look back and forth between the two sessions and see how the work done by the dispatcher is displayed to the officer and vice versa. Remember, if your agency doesn't currently have mobile data terminals, you can still get a tremendous benefit from using this system. For this quick demonstration, we will begin with a call coming into dispatch. That call will come in from the county 911 system. A citizen has called 911 to complain about drug activity that she's witnessing at a gas station in her neighborhood. We will process the call and manage the situation, showing the best features of the ALEN CAD system in as little time as possible. We'll stop once the call for service is completed and the officer is ready to write a report on the incident that occurred because of the call. Okay, so we're ready to get started. The call comes in, and now I'll step you through what's happening. CAD dispatcher will navigate to the dispatcher dashboard. So this is where the dispatcher would normally be if not engaged in an active call. The minute the call comes in, the dispatcher will click New Call and Save. The caller gives a location and the dispatcher adds the location to the call. The dispatcher dispatches Officer 2. As we go through these steps, please listen for the audible readout as the dispatcher assigns the officer to the call. This is one of the most beneficial aspects of the ALEN CAD solution.
Assigned to call C100.
Just that fast, the dispatcher created the call and dispatched a unit. Now let's pause a minute and take a look at what's happening in the patrol car. In addition to the audible alert you just heard, Officer 2 also receives a visual alert anytime a call for service is assigned to him. By clicking on the View button, the officer is taken to the calls for service grid, where it can be filtered for only active calls, and Officer 2 can see right away which call needs to be opened. To open the call and work with it, the officer clicks on the eye icon. Once the call is open, the list of all calls that the officer is assigned to drops below the details of the open call for service. As you can see, the officer has visibility of everything that the dispatcher has done so far. The officer has the call details, location, notes. The officer has a list of the dispatched units so he or she can see which officers are involved in the call for service. The officer has a list of the radio log entries for this call. And as they're added, the officer will have visibility of the parties, vehicles, and documents that are part of this call for service. From here, the officer can simply receive information from the dispatcher, or the officer can interact with the dispatcher from this very same screen. It depends on the agency and what the standard operating procedures are as to how much of the available functionality the officer will use. In our scenario today, Officer 2 will interact with CAD Dispatcher for the duration of the call. Let's unpause and return to the call for service and proceed with the call. Where we left off was that CAD Dispatcher had assigned the call to Officer 2, and Officer 2 has received an audible and a visual alert to the call for service and opened the call for service. At this point, Officer 2 reaches over and touches or clicks on Accepted, followed by En route. This lets the dispatcher know that Officer 2 is on his way to the location given in the call details. Notice how the information is updated on the dispatcher call screen. When Officer 2 arrives on scene, he most likely will not take the time to update his status himself, but rather he'll radio to dispatch, letting CAD Dispatcher know that he is on scene, and CAD Dispatcher will update his status. While Officer 2 is in pursuit of the drug suspect and using his radio to communicate with CAD Dispatcher will update the call in real time. So let's say that Officer 2 apprehends the suspect and radios to dispatch that he has the suspect in custody. While that information is coming across the radio, CAD Dispatcher is keying into the radio log. What's super cool about this solution is that while all of this is going on, anyone with permission to the ALEN CAD system can join this call from their mobile data terminal, or they can simply view this call from the station, their home, or anywhere with a secure internet connection. This enables supervisors, captains, chiefs to monitor what's going on with a call for service from anywhere in real time. Once Officer 2 apprehends the suspect and updates his status with dispatch, the dispatcher can complete the officer's status in the call and then complete the call itself. Marking the officer complete is a simple status update. Once the primary officer is in a completed status, the call is considered complete. There's not a requirement to disposition the call immediately. The call can remain complete but not dispositioned for as long as necessary. This allows dispatch to verify all the information and make any necessary edits before the call is dispositioned. So let's mark Officer 2 as complete since he has the suspect in custody and the scene is cleared. Now CAD Dispatcher can complete the information necessary to disposition the call. Officer 2 identifies the suspect and radios the information to dispatch. CAD Dispatcher runs the NCIC query on the suspect and receives a valid return. CAD Dispatcher will add the suspect, the witness, and a vehicle to this call. Since Rockmount PD uses the ALEN NCIC query product, and the dispatcher ran a query as part of assisting the officer in responding to the call, the dispatcher has access to vehicle and driver information. If this information is not available, then the party and vehicle information needs to be entered manually. Now that we have all the parties and vehicles added, let's take a look at the radio log. The radio log in the ALEN CAD system is a detailed accounting of everything that occurs within the system with regard to the call for service. A log type of system means that the entries were made by the ALEN system. A log type of radio means that the entries were created by a human being typing into the call for service. Everything that's logged includes the date, the time, and the user who entered it. And this information remains with the call and is a permanent record of what happened. Now that the call is complete and the dispatcher is finalizing the documentation with regard to the call, let's review the user interface that the dispatcher is working with and explain the layout and functionality of the dispatcher screen as it relates to enabling the dispatcher to work as quickly and as efficiently as possible. With the call opened, the dispatcher has visibility of all the data elements that are part of the call. He or she can easily complete the information needed for the call report. Before we complete the fields, let's take a look at the layout of the CAD dispatcher call screen and how the dispatcher will navigate around it. The top row of the open call section includes status information and quick add buttons. From left to right, we have a save call button, which saves all the data on the screen with one click. Next, we have status information. We can see the call for service number, the status of the call, who the dispatcher is, who the primary officer is, the call origin, and the call priority. Next, we have the buttons needed to manage the call. We have Add Officer, Add Party, Add Vehicle. We also have Import from Query, Add Radio Log, and Create Disposition. Directly beneath the status information, we have a series of tabs that store information about the call for service. When the call record is opened, ALEN defaults the call to the Call Details tab. Upon call creation, most of the information on the Call Details panel of the Details tab is completed automatically. For example, the system automatically records the date and time of the call, the agency that the call is for, the dispatcher who opened the call, how the call came in, and the call type and call priority. All of this information was set using agency defaults. The only field on this panel that cannot be set automatically is the tags field. The tags field is used to flag the call in ways that allow the agency to filter the calls for service using these tags. An example of this would be as follows. The town of Rockmount is having issues with brown bears coming into town and destroying property. The mayor's up for re-election and is promising to reduce the number of bears in the area. He has asked for a report of calls for service involving bears. The ALEN system doesn't have a field for bears, but with this tag system, the call can be tagged as a bear call, and then, when needed, a listing can be produced of all the calls tagged as bear calls. The tagging function gives the agency maximum flexibility in being able to track and classify calls for service as they need to. Underneath the Call Details panel is the Notes panel. This is an area available to the dispatcher to enter in anything that he or she needs to notate. These notes do not become part of the radio log, but are captured on the call for service report that you'll see later. Any notes keyed in here do not get read out to the officers assigned to the case. In the upper right Units on Call panel, we have a listing of officers assigned to the call and their statuses. This grid is automatically updated, and color codes are based on the officer's status. From this grid, the dispatcher can quickly and easily update an officer's status and can even reassign the primary officer as needed anytime during the call. There's no limit to the number of responders you can assign to a call, and every change made in the Units on Call panel is recorded in the radio log and read out to the officers in their cars. Beneath the Units on Call grid is the Location panel. The Location panel is one of the first components of a call that the dispatcher will interact with. In our scenario, the witness stated that the drug activity is happening in the parking lot of the Chevron station at Petalin, Maine. The purpose of the address book is to allow the agency to store address information for those locations that the officers routinely have to respond to. The address book stores the address, a description, and a name. In our scenario, the dispatcher selected this frequent location from the address book. Had the location not been in the address book, the dispatcher would have entered it in. Please note that as the dispatcher types the street names appear, allowing the dispatcher to choose it. With this feature, it improves the data integrity of the location reports that are used for your crime statistical data reporting. A dispatcher with appropriate permissions can add an address book entry into the address book itself. Please note that address book entries need a name and can have a description. The description can be used for any purpose and is most often used to assist the officers in locating the address more quickly or to give the officer information about the location that improves the officer's safety. There's many useful ways to set up the address book. If you have a listing of your frequently called addresses and you want our assistance in setting up your address book, we can do so during your onboarding process. Now that we've reviewed everything on the Details tab, let's review the remaining tabs. The Parties tab is a listing of the parties to the call. The grid displayed on this tab lists the parties along with their types and basic identifying information. If necessary, the dispatcher can edit the party information by clicking on the pencil icon. The dispatcher can also delete parties from the grid. The edit window is very basic as seen here. The Vehicle tab is a listing of the vehicles involved in this call for service. The grid displayed lists the prominent information about the vehicle. If necessary, the dispatcher can edit the vehicle information by clicking on the pencil icon. The dispatcher can also delete vehicles from this grid. The edit window is very basic. If the vehicle tag and the state are entered, the dispatcher can run a vehicle check directly from this grid using the looking glass icon. The Radio Log tab is a listing of all the radio log entries. This is a read-only listing as the radio log entries are permanent data elements of the call for service. The Documents tab is useful in attaching anything needed to the call for service. An example of this might be audio from the 911 center, or another example might be a screenshot of the query results. There's no restriction on what can be attached to the call for service record on the Documents tab. When attaching a file, the dispatcher has the option of entering a description that will make identifying the files in the list of documents very easy. Once all the information is captured in the call for service, the call can be dispositioned. To disposition the call, the dispatcher clicks on Create Disposition, selects a disposition code from the list, and enters in remarks, and then clicks Save. Once the call has a status of complete and a valid disposition, the call can be used to create a records management case. To do this, the dispatcher simply clicks the Create RMS Case button at the top of the call for service screen. This option is also available to the officer in the patrol car. When clicked, the ALEN system will create an empty RMS case and attach certain data elements to it automatically. The information that transfers to RMS is the CAD call number, the officers assigned, the parties, vehicles, and location. Once in RMS, the officer can use this data to generate the incident report. The CAD cover sheet is a detailed report of all the information in the call for service. To generate it, you use the print icon at the top of the call for service screen. The header information at the top, all of the vehicles and parties involved, the officers involved, and every radio log entry. CAD supervisors and agency administrators have access to call summary data reports. These reports are accessed through the CAD menu. What you see now is a listing of the available report templates that can be used to generate reports with precisely the data you wish to have on them. For example, if you need a call response time report for only one officer, you would select the Call Response Time Report and then select the date range and the officer's name and click Preview. Once the report is visible on the screen, you have the option to output it in numerous ways. The most common method is Adobe Acrobat PDF. Once exported to a PDF, the file can be printed or distributed as needed. You can pause the video right here to look at all the popular formats available. Okay, so the last section we want to discuss in this video is administration. Agency administrators can maintain all the tables that drive the efficiency of the dispatcher. This administration menu shows these tables and how easily they can be maintained by someone on your staff. For example, if your agency suddenly needs a disposition code that hasn't previously been needed, your agency administrator can log in, navigate to this screen, and edit the disposition codes table. As you can see, the ALEN CAD solution is designed to allow agencies of any size to manage their costs for service in a way that's in keeping with the APCO standards, while giving the dispatcher one tool to handle the communications, control, and documentation that's critical to the communication director's requirements. We continue to enhance all of our systems, so we hope you'll let us know what you need that you don't see here. There's a very good chance that what you're thinking about is already in our development backlog. I'd like to offer my sincere thanks for you taking the time to view this video demonstration. We know your time is very valuable and in high demand, and we appreciate that you spent some of it learning about ALEN and the CAD solution. For more information or to schedule a personal demonstration, please reach out to us using one of the messages you see now. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Facebook to keep up with the cool things happening with the ALEN suite of law enforcement solutions. Bye now.